From the courtroom to the web, he's got it all. Sharing legal knowledge, answering the call. He breaks it down in a language we all understand. The Aussie Overlaw'd taking a stand. With his Aussie charm and his legal know-how, he's the hero we need, showing us how. He fights for justice, no case too tough. The Aussie Overlaw'd, he's more than enough. He's more than enough. In Melbourne town, where the suits all grind, there's a lawyer with a vision, one of a kind. He's the Aussie Overlaw'd, he'll fight for your rights, and he's got his own channel shining bright. From the courtroom to the web, he's got it all. Sharing legal knowledge, answering the call. He breaks it down in a language we all understand. The Aussie Overlaw'd taking a stand. With his Aussie charm and his legal know-how, he's the hero we need, showing us how. He fights for justice, no case too tough. The Aussie Overlaw'd, he's more than enough. He's more than enough. In Melbourne town, where the suits all grind, there's a lawyer with a vision, one of a kind. He's the Aussie Overlaw'd, he'll fight for your rights, and he's got his...
And good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome back for part 2 of our retro trial rewatch of the Jessica Chambers flaming murder death. I really have to come up with a better name for that. I wasn't really happy with how they'd phrased it in Law and Crime and all that sort of stuff. But it is the murder trial of Quentin Tellis, who was alleged to have burnt a poor woman to death. Last week we heard from her mother and an eyewitness, Glenn Williams, and today we're going to be hearing further about it. Now, as I've said, the retro trials, I generally try and go blind. Try and go in blind. I have no idea why my words are not working. So I know very little beyond the basis of the case because I want to be able to see this for myself and make determinations. Good here. Thank you, Bifrons. I was a little bit... I don't like when bits stick up. Really don't. We call them cocky feathers, but for obvious reasons, that doesn't work internationally. So, but anyway, I am on a tight leash tonight. It's going to be strictly to the 2 to 2.5 hour mark because I do unfortunately have to do some traveling tomorrow, but we'll try and work a few things out. In the meantime, let's get stuck straight in the situation of the trial. Now, this next witness, I did check. The audio was pretty bad. I've already put the captions on, and I've boosted the audio. It sort of is a bit echoey, but it is what it is.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give regarding this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I need you to speak up for me. Can you state your name for the record?
Cole Haley.
Mr. Haley, on December the 6th of 2014, were you a fireman in Panola County?
Yes, sir, I was.
What department were you with?
Cortland Fire Department, Station 8.
And at that time, were you the chief of Cortland Fire Department?
Yes, I was.
Now, you obviously know why we're here.
Yes,
And on
sir.
December 6th of 2014, prior to going to Herring Road, were you out on another fire call?
Yes, sir.
What type of call was that?
It was smoke in the house call. We just went to the call. It's a basic call. It gets cold outside. Everybody starts turning their heater on, and a lot of times it'll set up a little bit and just smoke the house. And we just put the exhaust fan up and cleared the house out, and we were back at the station.
All right. When you arrived back at the station, who all was at the station that you remember?
It was me, Jody Mars, and Seth Cook.
And you're all cleaning up from that call?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you receive another call to the area of Herring Road?
Yes, sir. We received a call, and inside our fire department, it's a metal building, and our radios that don't pick up. A lot of times they'll kind of break in and out, the traffic will. So I told them to go ahead and get ready, and I stepped outside to make sure I got the whole traffic from the dispatch, and it was for a car fire on Herring Road.
So at 8:12 p.m. you responded to a car fire.
Yes, sir. I got back in the station, and like I said, they were dressed, and I told them to go ahead and brush truck 84, and I was just seconds behind them in engine 81.
Right. And what is engine 81?
Engine 81 is a pumper. It's our big truck. Brush truck 84 is a brush truck. It's just a normal truck with a water tank in the bed.
How far is the scene on Herring Road from where Cortland Fire Department is located?
I would say a mile and a half.
Now, who was the first, which vehicle got there first?
Brush truck 84 arrived on scene first.
And that had the other two guys.
Yes, sir. That had Seth Cook and Jody Morris.
And did you come up right alongside them?
They had, from their story, they had actually pulled in the drive and seen Jessica walking up, and it kind of shocked them, and they backed up to.
Let's stop. I'm not going to ask you their story. I just want to know what you saw, okay?
All right.
When you arrived, did you pull around them?
When I arrived, I pulled around them and pulled on up to where the car was on fire. And
What did you see?
I saw Jessica standing in the road, and then of course I seen the car on fire out of the corner of my eye, and I immediately stepped out of the truck and raised the compartment, got a blanket out, and went to Jessica's aid.
Let me ask you about it. Did you know Jessica Chambers?
I knew her. We weren't, friends or anything, but I knew her.
When you first arrived on the scene, did you recognize this person?
No, sir, I did not.
What was this person wearing?
When I seen her, she had nothing on but her panties.
And What did you tell me you did? You got a blanket?
I got out and I got a blanket, and she had her arms out and was coming towards me saying, "Help me, help me, help me."
Nicole, I want you to describe for this jury what did she look like? What was the condition of Jessica Chambers?
Her hair was, her hair was fried out like she had stuck it in a light socket. And she had black all over her face. Her body was severely burned, and just all the way down her body was very badly burned. And like I said, and I wrapped the blanket around her to conceal her. The blanket around her to conceal her. And I always knew that, learned that, burn victims would be cold. And so that's why, I placed a blanket around her, and we proceeded to walk up the road. I was trying to get her to the front of the engine 81 to where the headlights were, where it'd be more light, or, could access her a little more, see a little better. We made it to the back of engine 81, and she couldn't go anymore. And I proceeded to lay her down on the ground. She reached out for my hand. I held on to her hand, and I talked to her, and I asked her name. She said, "What come out?" Like I said, her mouth, inside her mouth was just charred black, and could not understand her very well at all.
Were you able to get a name?
When I asked her name, she said Jessica Chambers. And like I said, she was not recognizable to me. I know what Jessica Chambers looked like. Did not look like Jessica Chambers at the time. And as I looked at her, and I thought about the compact car. I knew that she drove a smaller car like that. And I said, knowing this is Cortland, I said, this is Jessica Chambers, not Chambers.
Is that the point you recognized who you were talking to?
Yes, sir.
Now, describe her voice for the jury. How was it coming out when you were talking to her?
It was very garbled and just dry. I mean, I was face to face with her, and she, like I said, you could barely understand her, and she kept asking for water, and I knew in my mind she didn't need water. I knew that was not the best, not to give her water, and I just wanted to double check myself. And the only time I left her side was I went up to the front of the engine 81 and asked Jody just to get a second opinion. I said, she can't have water, right? And he said, that's right. And I come back, held her hand beside her, and asked her what happened. And she told me, she said, I was set on fire.
Again, was her voice clear?
It was not clear. Like I said, some words you were able to tell what they were plainly, but it was not clear, if that makes sense.
Did you ask her who did this to her?
I asked her, I said, who did this to you? She tried to say a name. I could not understand the name.
Did it sound like anything to you?
I could not make out anything to what she said. The only time I heard a name was after Daniel Cole got on scene, MedStat got there, and I believe a deputy was there, and they had turned her head away from me, and they had started packing her up, and they kept questioning her, you know, who did this, who did this, who did this, and then I heard them say Eric. Like I said, I never heard her say a name, and you know, and I kept going over in my mind, why didn't I ask her more questions? And the reason I didn't ask her any more questions than what I did, because I knew it was hard for her to talk. It was, you know, it was hard for her to speak, and she was fading in and out on me.
Were you trying to keep her alert?
She was closing her eyes and her head was rolling back, and I would rub her chest bone and say her name, Jessica, sweetheart.
Were you able to keep her alert until the other authorities arrived?
Yes, sir. I kept her alert, and you know, told her, you know, help's coming.
And did MedStat show up?
MedStat, they got there pretty quick.
You turned her over to the paramedics.
When MedStat got there, I turned it over to the paramedics. Like I said, and Daniel Cole, he arrived before MedStat, and I knew he had a background in this type field, in the paramedic field and everything. And so when he got there, I let him kind of get in there and work a little bit.
Now, this jury's not from Panola County, so tell Daniel Cole, what is he in Panola County?
He is CD1. He's Civil Defense 1. He's over Panola County Emergency Operations.
Because they're going to hear from him soon. I just wanted them to know who that name is. When you mentioned Jody and Seth, who were they with?
How it always goes out for first
There was
responders on the scene like this.
Now, the last scene, once they arrived and took over for Jessica, did you go assess the actual fire?
By that time, to back up a little bit, when she said, I was set on fire, I hollered up there to Seth, which was fighting fire. Jody was kind of in between me and Seth the whole time, helping us both out until some more help got there. And I hollered up there to him, and I told him, I said, y'all, I said, kind of just drown this fire.
For those of you just coming in, this gentleman was the firefighter, one of the firefighters that was the first on the scene to find Jessica burning alive as she was near her car. So this may be some of the worst testimony we hear out of this. And no, this guy's never going to forget it. It's something that is horrific, and yeah, this is rough.
Out, I said, you know, to preserve any evidence that might be left.
Tell us what you noticed. Did you look at the car when it was burning, when you first got there?
When I got there and I stepped out of the truck, you know, I looked at the car. I didn't take the time to examine it or anything like that, because my main concern was getting to Jessica. But the car was on fire on the inside, and you can tell that I worked many car fires before, and when a car is set on fire on the inside, it's contained to the inside of the cabin of the car. A car that's electrical problems or something like that, you're going to have grass fire, and you're going to have fire around the car, not just inside the car.
Even the judge.
Cole, when you say contained to the inside, what was the condition of the grass around the car? And explain to the jury what you mean by drowning out the fire.
The fire was inside the car, like along the edges of the car. It was barely even black. I mean, like I said, most time on a car fire, you're gonna have it's gonna catch the grass on fire, and you're gonna have a grass fire around the car. There was no grass fire around the car. And what was
So did you wet the area of the car, or the area surrounding the car?
And drowned out the car instead of what we call a power stream or a power cone, which is full force firefighting. Reduced the nozzle down to more of a flooding stage where it won't blow, like, it wouldn't blow stuff out of the car. We could drown it, and the water would just kind of settle everything down in the car instead of blowing it out.
Cole, last question. In all your years of being a firefighter, have you ever seen anything like this?
No, sir, and I hope I never see anything like it again.
Your Honor, I tender the witness. Cross.
Oh, don't touch it. You better limit this to 2 or 3 questions at most. For those of you that didn't see part 1, I was very critical of this woman. Honestly, I don't think that either the prosecution or the defense in this are stellar, but she did a poor job. And of course, Berry's, I'm extraordinarily sorry to hear about the papa. Hopefully everything goes well.
Good afternoon, Mr. Haley.
Good afternoon.
I have a few questions for you.
They better be just a few.
I know that you mentioned that you were, this was the second call that you went to that day.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe there's a terminology, you were toned out from the fire department. Yes?
Yes.
And that time would have been just a little bit after 8 o'clock, about 8:12. You agree with that?
I was told for the vehicle fire. Yes, ma'am.
And so you agree that just very shortly after you were on the scene, let's say the next day, December 7th, you completed a statement about what happened.
I did.
You did. And may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I hand this to you.
You may.
Do you recognize?
Huh. The camera feed messed up. The clock is surprisingly still ticking.
I'm sorry.
They wanted it done as fast as possible when everything was fresh on our mind.
Absolutely.
Wasn't me, Aussie Tank.
So you agree that it would have been fresh on your mind back then?
It was fresh in my mind, but what I'm trying to get to is when I did this statement, I was also in a daze. I was in a daze for weeks. I mean,
This is the first one, Jason.
It affected me.
But you still agree, though, that as far as the basic information, it was fresh on your mind at that time?
Oh, I mean,
Yes, correct?
everything in here is true.
Your Honor,
Where
can
you
I
going
have
with this,
this
Counselor?
marked as Defense Exhibit 1?
Be marked in committee. Yes, to the court reporter, please, sir.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, that's the only real reason she'd be trying to impeach this. He's obviously said something in the statement after the fact. But I mean, you'd still be trying to tread very freaking carefully with this.
If you would, please, I'm going to try to guide you as best I can. Go down about 13 lines. You see where it says I, 801?
Yes.
Okay. 801 is like your identification number as a firefighter?
That's my call number.
Your call number, yes. If you would, please start reading at that point.
I, 801, started tending to the young female patient. I placed a blanket over her body to help in keeping her warm and to give her some concealment. I held the patient's hand and kept her talking until med-stat made scene. I asked the patient her name and she replied, Jessica Chambers. I asked what happened and she said somebody set her on fire. And when I asked who set her on fire, she would say what sounded to be Eric.
Okay, now, that's good, thank you. And
That's
so
where
what
she
you
wanted the statement
basically
read.
said there was, when asked to set her on fire, she would say what sounded to be Eric.
Yes, ma'am. That goes back to what I was saying. I was in a daze. I mean,
Did you spell out Eric in the report there?
I did.
You did? How did you spell it?
ERIC.
Yes. And do you recall that you just testified moments ago that you heard her say that she was set on fire? You remember just saying that?
Basically, at this point, the defense's argument
Well, you've
is
been
that a
here today. You
mysterious guy
remember
called
that.
Eric
Yes.
was in fact the one that set her on
And
set
if
her
you
alight.
would go back to your statement, you said that also.
Dog,
back
if I had to
then,
guess, I'd
December
guess this
7th,
kid's
correct?
Medicated to the nth degree. What he witnessed would have been
Somebody set her on
horrific.
fire.
Yes. And then you also said you used the name Eric because that's what you heard. Isn't that correct?
That's what I heard.
That's what you heard, fresh on your memory, the very next day after everything happened on Saturday, correct?
Yes.
When the trauma's fresh in his mind and he's not
So
100%
when you
sure what
said
he's
you
hearing,
couldn't make
that's
out
what really
anything
you're
that
hanging
she
on.
said, that
Okay.
would be incorrect.
No.
Court's indulgence. Court's indulgence, just a moment.
You may answer the, you have something you want to say, sir?
You saying that, I don't know if I understood you correctly.
Okay. My question, I just repeated what you stated, Mr. Haley. You said earlier, couldn't make out anything she said.
That's why I couldn't, I could barely make out what she said. I mean, you know,
You see where you said that you kept her talking.
I kept her alert and it kept her saying, you know, she was saying, I'm going to die. and I would say, no, you're not, just hang on. And like I said, but when she said that, it's not, I'm not saying it was plain.
I understand.
It was garbled, but
But Eric was playing, correct?
I didn't personally hear her say Eric. That's what I was getting to, as in, when I wrote the report, I wrote it, and, when I heard Eric was when CD1 and the deputies and everything were questioning her, and at that time I was at her feet, and they said Eric.
You heard her say Eric in their presence. Is that what you're saying?
I heard them come up and say Eric. I didn't personally hear her say Eric.
Course indulgence, just for a moment, Your Honor. I tend to witness, Your Honor.
You can direct.
You heard Daniel Cole say Eric?
Yes,
And is that where you got Eric from in your report?
yes.
Now, one thing I want to ask you, you mentioned the days after and since, how this has affected you. Please tell the jury how this scene has affected you.
It's affected me. To know there's people out there that cruel. I was scared to leave my house. And it's still hard for me to leave my house. Because I'm scared of something happening to my house or my property, or that is people out there that can do such a thing.
Cole, let me ask you one final question. As of today, are you currently on the Cortland Fire Department?
Sir, I'm not.
Your Honor, I have no further questions. I would ask that he be finally excused.
That poor kid has got so much PTSD that it's not funny. And the simple fact of the matter is that he had to go through this more than once. That's just horrifying.
You may be fine excused. You can leave or you can remain in the courtroom. Your choice, sir.
Do you know this?
Let me call you next witness.
Saw Jody Morris.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give involving your case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
What is your name?
Jody Morris,
And Jody, where are you employed?
Darby Church.
You're over the road truck driver?
Yes, sir.
And do you have a part-time, or do you do a volunteer firefighting as a part-time or volunteer? Or as a volunteer?
I did. I just recently resigned.
Were you a volunteer firefighter for Portland on December the 6th of 2014?
Yes, sir, I was.
Do you recall getting called out or toned out around 8, a little bit after 8 on that evening?
Yes, sir.
Where were you?
I was inside the firehouse
And why were you there?
because we just got back from a possible structure fire.
And did y'all actually work that possible structure fire?
Yes, we did.
And how long had you been back at Cortland when you got the tone about the car fire?
Approximately 20 to 30 minutes.
And who was at the firehouse with you?
Myself, my fire chief, Cole Haley, and firefighter Cook.
And where were you advised to go as the location of the car fire?
We was advised to go down Herring Road to the tree farm.
Did you know where that was?
I didn't at the time.
What did you do after the tones came?
Well, when the tone come through, it was for a car on fire in the field. At that time, well, you know, it had been raining. It was December. It's hard to drag 600-foot hose across the field, you know, fighting with your engine. So we decided to take the brush truck. So we were responding to our brush truck because it's four-wheel drive, be easy to, you know, fight the fire if it was out in the middle of a field. So myself and firefighter Cook responded to brush truck, and our fire chief responded to our engine right behind us.
So where did you go when you left Cortland?
We took a left, went toward Benson Road on Herring.
Okay. And what did you find when you got to the fire?
When we got to the fire, we seen a passenger-sized car with heavy flames coming out of the passenger area.
Okay. Describe the fire for the jury, please, where it was contained and what it actually looked like.
The fire was coming out of the passenger area, which I mean the front seat and the back seat. It was pretty much contained inside there. It wasn't in the engine compartment or the trunk compartment.
And where did you actually pull the truck?
I pulled the truck straight up from the gate.
Describe for the jury, please, the area. As I understand, you're on Herring Road and you turn up a little incline to where a gate's located. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And as you're parked at the gate, where left or right was the vehicle?
The car was to our left.
Okay. And describe the location of the car in relation to where you parked your brush truck.
The car was, we pulled up, you know, here's the gate. We pulled straight up to the gate, and the car was straight across from us.
Okay. Approximately how far?
Probably less than 20 feet.
And what did y'all do at this point?
I was given a scene summary. I took command since I was a captain at the firehouse. I took command, scene command of it. Was given a description, a summary of the car, what we had to dispatch on the radio. And that's when firefighter Cook got my attention and said he seen an object in the woods.
Okay. And did you look to see what object he was talking about?
I did.
What did you see?
I seen a figure, looked like somebody coming out of the woods. The only light we had was the glow of the fire, and the lights on our brush truck. So, it was hard to see what was coming out.
What did it appear to you to be?
Appeared to be a zombie coming out. I know that's a little harsh, but that's what it looked like.
Why do you say that?
Because her hair was singed back and the way she was walking.
You could see it was a person.
Yes, at that time, yes.
What'd y'all do next?
We backed the truck up down the road about 20 feet. I wanted to get some headlights. As scene command, my priority as scene commander is to protection of my firemen. We backed up so I can get a second scene summary of what I had, and I want to get some headlights on the patient that's walking toward us.
Did it kind of make y'all nervous?
It did.
Okay. And once you backed the truck, so I assume you backed it out of the.
I know it's a bad time to be joking about it, but to be fair, you see a zombie coming towards you, you gotta back away a little bit. What the hell was this objection about?
All right, rephrase your question, Mr. Champion, please.
How did you move the truck?
We backed out and went back toward Cortland.
Okay. Which way were the head? All right, back toward Cortland would be which direction?
Be back east.
Which way were your headlights facing?
West.
Okay. And how far from the car did you see this zombie-like figure?
About 30 feet.
And describe where you saw this person coming from in relation to the road.
She was coming out of the edge of the woods, walking toward us.
Okay. And is this the point where you backed your truck up?
Yes, sir.
And once you pointed the headlights back west, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What did you see?
I seen a young female with severe burns on her body.
And what was she wearing?
She was wearing nothing but her panties.
What did you do?
I immediately called for a deputy because at that time I didn't know what we drove up on.
Did you, was Cole there by then?
Cole was, by that time, Cole was coming around the corner in the fire engine, and we both approached the scene again together with both trucks, shining our headlights on her.
Was she still coming towards you?
Yes, sir.
Did you know who it was at the time?
No, sir.
And describe for the jury what, now you're getting a closer look at her, what she actually looked like.
I really didn't get a closer look at her until after I got my truck, my truck parked. Myself and firefighter Cook jumped out, and we got our booster reel out, cranked, got the pump going, got the water going. I told firefighter Cook just to contain the fire, and then that's when I went and assisted my fire chief with the patient.
What was Cole doing with her at this point?
He'd already had her laid on the ground, and I had her trying to comfort her.
All right, how did y'all have the trucks parked?
The engine was parallel with the car on the side of the road, and then my brush truck was right behind the car, and instead of pulling it into the drive this time, I backed it up to keep headlights out on the road.
All right, were y'all's vehicles parked basically side by side, the brush truck and the engine that
It made a square. And
What?
I said it kind of made a little square right there.
and it would have been a little bit north of where the car was.
It was right beside the car almost.
All right, did Cole begin trying to help this person?
He did.
Okay, and what did you and firefighter Cook do?
Firefighter Cook and myself, like I said, we exited our vehicle after we approached the scene back. We pulled our booster reel out, tried to contain the fire, and firefighter Cook was a rookie then, so I told him, I said, just fog the fire, keep it contained, don't let it spread to the tree farm until other firefighters get there, certified firefighters.
Did y'all call for help?
I did.
Okay, who did you call for?
I called for Pope Fire Department
I believe you testified a minute ago, you also called for the sheriff's department.
and the sheriff's department, yes, sir.
Okay, why did you do that?
Because I didn't know what I had at the time. I didn't know if I'd come up on a dispute or what.
And you testified a moment ago that once firefighter Cook was working on the car to extinguish it, that you actually went back with Cole, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, tell us what happened when you got back there.
Well, when I got back to the back of the fire engine, that's where where Cole and the patient was. I got down on my knees and everything, and just in my experience, you're supposed to talk to the patient and examine her at the same, examine the patient at the same time.
How long have you been a firefighter at this point?
I've been going about 11, 12 years now, since I was 13, 14 years old. I was a junior
So
firefighter.
back in 2014, you'd have been, what, 8 or 9 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so you get down with Cole, and is Cole still with this person?
Yes, sir.
Did you know who it was at this point?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you eventually learn who it was?
Yes, sir.
And when did you eventually learn who it was?
When I started questioning her.
Okay. And what did you say to her?
Well, my first question I asked her, I said, what's your name? And she told me, my name's Jessica Chambers.
Okay. And then?
And then my second question was, I said, was anybody else in the vehicle with you? And she said no. And then I said, well, what happened? I said, Jessica, what happened to you? Because at that time I recognized who she was. While I was questioning her, I was steady looking at her body, examining the extent of her injuries. And she told me, she said, Eric set me on fire.
And tell the jury what were the extent of her injuries.
Her lips were charred, her tongue was charred. I mean, you can obviously tell it was third degree burns in her face. Her nasal, sinus cavities were even hanging out of her nose.
That's what I'm getting at. So when you observed her, tell the jury about her nose.
She was having problems breathing. That was because of it. It was all charred, black, all in her nose, like she just inhaled all the fire in her face.
What about her lips?
Her lips were black. I mean, it's like it was just dried up.
Were the two of you talking like you and I are talking right now?
No.
And what do you mean by that?
She was having problems breathing the time I got back to the you know, back behind the fire truck. I mean, she was having problems breathing. I mean, her voice was deeper than mine is. I mean, but I can make out what she was saying.
And what did you do after you talked with her?
I immediately jumped up. I told Cole, like I said, she's finna go in the shock. If she ain't already easing in the shock, I said, keep her awake, talk to her. I went on and immediately called for MedStat. Told them that I had a young female with second, third degree burns on her body, 90% of her body, and to get MedStat en route ASAP. And I also told dispatch again, I said, get me deputies. I didn't get on the radio and tell them exactly what I had because I just didn't want everybody listening, you know, the extent of the call. So I called them on the cell phone and I told dispatch exactly what I had. I said that a young female has been set on fire, to notify our EMA director, which the reason why I done that because he lived in the city of Cortland. I knew he'd probably be here, get there pretty quick to us.
Who are you talking about?
Daniel Cole.
Did you actually go back with Jessica, or were other people arriving at this point?
There was other people arriving, starting to arrive at this point.
Did you do anything else with Jessica from this point forward?
No.
Did you assist with putting the fire out?
I did.
Did you assist? I assume at some point she was transported from there to another location. Is that
She
correct?
was.
And where was she taken?
She was taken right below our firehouse to the church, right below our firehouse,
And what was the purpose of that?
to be airlifted to the med.
What was the scene like once everybody began to arrive?
It was, I mean, I ain't gonna say it was like a normal, you know, fire scene, but everybody knew their duties, what they had to do.
What about the Pope folks when they began to arrive?
When Pope finally got there, they assisted. The reason I called for Pope is for their medical supplies on their rescue because our engine didn't have the, you know, the capability of taking care of the, you know, the amount of injuries she had. And when they got there, they assisted with, you know, which we call packaging the patient and helping MedStat get the patient loaded.
You ever seen anything like this before, Jody?
I've seen people burn before, but unintentionally.
Tender the witness, Your Honor.
You may cross.
Good afternoon, Mr. Morris.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
All right.
Just a few questions for you. I know you were what would be considered first responder there. Yes. And basically, I believe your testimony was that the fire was contained inside the car.
Yes, ma'am.
So at that point, or at no point to which you recall, Miss Jessica was not in the car at any time. Only time you saw her was pretty much walking and coming towards you.
Yes, ma'am.
As a firefighter, you wrote a statement out as to what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was pretty recently after it happened, correct?
The night of, yes, ma'am.
The night of. And may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's your statement, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if, Your Honor, what I'd like to do this time is to have it marked and admitted into evidence.
All right. Any objection?
like a fountain. John, my back's killing me. Can I sit?
Sir?
My back's killing me. Can I sit here just for a second and talk?
I'm sorry, you can sit. Yes, sir.
All right. Normally it's a statement of a witness being cross-examined is not admissible unless there's some kind of fact. I mean, if it's a prior inconsistent statement for impeachment, I certainly understand it, but he hasn't been impeached yet with his statement.
Yeah, Paulson Thunder, and that's sort of why I looked at her funny, because, like, don't get me wrong, I get why she's having to grasp at every straw that she can, because, like I said, I do not think very much of this defense attorney at all, really, if I'm perfectly honest. And you know me, I genuinely say that everybody is deserving of every benefit of the doubt as a defendant. And someone asked how the defendant knew her. Well, apparently they'd known each other for a few weeks. There was some text back and forth, and they may have been allegedly romantically involved. I'm pretty certain that saying that just because they're trying to allude to the fact that she wasn't in the car, she's got 90% of her body having second and third degree burns. I think she might have been involved in a fire at some stage that night. And the most immediate vicinity of a fire is the flaming car that's maybe 100 feet away. Not really a great argument, if you ask me. So that's sort of why I looked at it and I was like, what do you want about here, woman?
So therefore, I would object to the admissibility of the statement at this point.
Objection noted, be overruled. You may mark the exhibit.
Thank you. If you will, I want to direct your attention to maybe about halfway down. You might can count maybe a little bit easier, maybe about 16 lines down.
Okay.
Okay. You see where it says myself and fire chief?
Yes.
Okay. If you will, please just read that.
Myself and fire chief was working on the young lady, trying to comfort her until mess day got there.
Okay, keep reading.
I kept asking the young lady her name and what happened.
Okay, and one more sentence for me.
And that's when she told me that Eric had set her on fire.
Actually, does it say, and that is when she told us that Eric set her on fire?
Yes.
Okay. And so that us would include, as best you can recall, Jody Mars. Yes?
Yes.
Back then, this was fresh on your mind. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And I think you went as far as to when the person's name as Eric, you spelled it out and put it in quotes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
How did you spell it?
E-R-I-C, Eric.
You also testified that her lips were black, had a deeper voice. Yes?
Yes.
But you also could make out what she was saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Court's indulgence, just a moment.
The defendant is Quentin Tellis.
I think I called you the wrong name a minute ago.
You did.
What I meant to say is that actually that us included Cole Haley,
Yes, ma'am, the fire chief. Yes.
fire chief.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moore.
Redirect.
Jody, did when you first asked her, did you get an immediate response, or did you have to ask her multiple times about what was going on?
I got immediate response. I mean, she had to catch her breath. I mean, she was having problems breathing.
And she was having trouble breathing. Was she having trouble breathing at this point?
Yes.
And I believe, what did you mean when you said her sinus cavity was coming out?
I mean, she had her, sinus cavities were dangling out of her nose.
Nothing further, Your Honor. He may be excused.
Sir, you may be found excused. That means that you can free to go or you can remain in the courtroom. Your choice.
Thank you, sir.
Counsel, approach, please.
That is horrifying. I mean, look, I'm just spitballing here, but as someone just watching this for the first time, I'm not putting too much stock in the fact that she said Eric, because here's the thing, there's always the possibility that he fake named her so that he could get a lay over the course of a couple of weeks and then allegedly set her on fire. I don't know. So I'm not putting too much stock in that at the moment. I only knew about the throat being burned on the inside. Ugh. All right, we got like 2 minutes left in this, and then I'll switch over to day 2. Oh, the poor family members having to hear all these details. It's horrific. Yeah, look, that's altogether a possibility. I mean, I think it'd be rough to try and get Eric from Quinton, but I don't know. Wasn't there. Can't say for sure. What I'm saying is that there's multiple theories as to why that could have been different.
Okay, good. We're going to stop for the day and put in a full day today, and we'll resume.
It is, Eric. It's about 6 years.
This trial again at 9 o'clock in the morning. Remember my admonition about not talking among yourselves and discussing this case. That's vitally important.
That's brutal, Burberries. That's brutal.
We just can't permit it. And as I told you earlier, you will be permitted to use your cell phones tonight on a limited basis to call home and check on your loved ones.
It's a retro trial
You should have
rewatch,
received
Eric.
an information sheet from Ms. Phelps.
I rarely ever get to watch live trials, so
Should an
this is just as
emergency
good.
arise at home, who they are to call. That way that we can always get you word if need be. But please remember, you're only going to use those cell phones tonight for a short period of time on a limited basis. And I'm sorry I have to be that strict, but I don't have any choice. I hope you understand. All right, is anything further from the state before we recess for the day?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I put you in charge with the bailiffs, and I will see you bright and early in the morning.
Look, aside from the horrific nature of the trial, of the injuries incurred, nothing particular.
Just a little reminder of my rules about coming and going in the courtroom. There'll be no coming and going except during our recess, and the court will always remain in order until the jury's excused. So just kind of want to remind everybody of that rule this morning. It's we got a full courtroom, so it's less disruptive if we abide by those rules. I appreciate your cooperation. Anything from the state we need to take up before I bring the jury in?
No, sir.
From the defense?
No, sir, Your Honor.
All right, if you'll bring the jury in, please. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I trust you all had a
Well,
good...
to be fair, I didn't say I was going to provide much in terms of legal analysis, but, you know.
Good evening and relaxed, slept well in a strange bed again and ready to go this morning. Is that correct? All right, so I got
do
to
feel
ask
sorry
you
for this
again,
jury. That
I
was
assume
requested
that
the
you
entire
have not
time.
discussed this case among yourselves and that no one's tried to contact you about this case. Is that correct? All right, thank you. State may call their next witness.
Seth Cook.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
What is your name?
Seth Cook,
And Seth, where are you currently employed?
Panola County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you been there?
since August 1st.
Back in December of 2014, where were you employed?
I was working for Mill Lake Farms.
And did you also, were you a volunteer firefighter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And where did you, where were you a volunteer firefighter?
Cortland Fire Department.
And how long had you been there?
Maybe a year.
And were you at the Cortland Fire Department around a little bit after 8 on Saturday night, December the 6th, when a call came out about a fire?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember what the nature of the call was?
The tone came through on the radio and dispatch said it was a vehicle on fire in a field near the tree farm in Cortland on Heron Road.
Were you familiar with that area?
Not at the time.
Who was at the fire station with you?
It was me, Cole Haley, and Jody Morris.
Okay. And I know this question hasn't been asked yet, but when you come in off of 51, if you're going southbound on 51, how do you get to the Cortland Fire Department?
You hang a right on Main Street in Cortland, and as soon as you cross the tracks, it's right there on the left.
Okay. And right before you get to the tracks on the left, what's there?
Cortland Baptist Church.
Okay. And is there a big open field in front of the Cortland First Baptist Church?
It's a big parking lot there.
Okay. So if for the jury's sake, you come in on 51, right before you get to the railroad tracks is the church and the big parking area, and then right across it on the other side of the tracks is the fire department. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In which direction would you head, or which direction did y'all head from the fire department to get to where you were toned out to go?
When we left the fire department, we turned west on, I guess it's considered Main Street right there, and then it turns into Heron Road.
Okay. And who was at the fire station? I should have let you finish a minute ago. Who was at the fire station when the tone came out?
Just myself, Cole Haley, and Jody Morris.
And which truck did you get
Yeah,
in?
no, okay, well, that's why I'm not looking too deep into it.
Our
just
chief
yet.
told me and Jody to respond in our brush truck because they did say the vehicle was on fire in a field. And that time of the year it was kind of wet, and in order to be able to get to it, the truck's four-wheel drive, it's lighter than an engine, so we took it. That way we'd be able to get to the vehicle.
And I assume the brush truck has got water on it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long did it take you to get from the station to where the car was on fire?
Probably anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes.
Is it very far?
It's not far at all.
Okay. And tell the jury what you found upon your arrival at the scene.
As me and Jody were pulling up, we could clearly see the vehicle was on fire on the left side of the road, just inside of a private drive. As we were pulling up, our eyes were on the vehicle, assessing what we had at the time. And
Describe for the jury the position of the car and what you observed about where the fire was in or outside the car.
the vehicle was pulled up in that private drive, and it had been turned and parked parallel to a fence right there. When we pulled up, the vehicle, all the fire appeared to be contained inside the vehicle. I couldn't remember if there was flames coming out from under the hood or the trunk compartment at the time. One thing I did notice, the driver door was open about halfway. and nothing registered in our minds then about it. We pulled the vehicle up into the private drive close to the car, and my turnout jacket was in the bed of the truck. As soon as I opened the door to get out, that's when I looked back towards the west, and you could see a silhouette of someone coming out of the woods. At the time, we were unsure what exactly it was, but it looked like the silhouette of a person.
Were you in the driver's side or the passenger side?
I was in the passenger seat.
Okay. So the silhouette that you saw would have been on your side of the car.
Well, see, that's just it, Bifrons. We don't know. Because there's another trial that happens after this. Her boyfriend is later killed, and there's a few other things that go into that would be fairly big spoilers for this trial. So, don't know, to be perfectly honest.
Of the truck.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just tell the jury a little bit about this silhouette. What did it look like?
It was probably 30 or 40 feet down the road from us on, I guess it would be on the north side of that road. And we really didn't have that much lighting out there. It was dark. The only lights you could had were the light bar on top of the vehicle, and our headlights were facing south, so we really didn't have any kind of lighting on the silhouette of the person. We were unsure what was going on at the time, so we got back in the brush truck and backed up in the road to try and get some headlights on the silhouette, and that's when you could tell it was a person walking towards us.
What did you tell Jody when you first saw the silhouette? I assume Jody was with you, right?
Yes, sir.
What did you tell Jody when you first saw the silhouette?
I just bumped Jody on the arm and said, "Hey, man." I was like, "I don't know what this is," walking down the road towards us. And so that time we were unaware of what was going on. For our safety, we just wanted to back up and get some lights on that silhouette so we could see what was going on.
Okay. And once you got lights on the silhouette, tell the jury, please, what you saw.
We could tell it was a female with hair. Hair seemed to be kind of frayed out, like someone had taken their hands and ran through it. And you couldn't really tell if she was wearing any clothing at that time until she got closer to us. And when she got closer to us, you could tell the only thing she had on were panties.
And what did y'all do at this point?
About that time, Cole was pulling up in the engine, and we both approached towards her. And when
No one in this jurisdiction's ever heard of the
Cole
word
pulled the
underpants.
engine up, she came around to Cole's side of that engine, and we pulled the brush truck back into where we had originally pulled up at.
Okay. What did you notice about her? You described her hair, and you described all she was wearing was panties. What was her condition as she got closer to y'all?
She looked like she was very dazed, like in a trance. She was having trouble walking.
Did you
They were
notice
burnt off,
the
Denise.
burns?
Not until they got up close to her. You could tell she had burns on her. Her skin it just looked like some really bad sunburn. Her skin was kind of peeling back in places.
Did y'all immediately at this time begin to try to help her?
Yes, sir. They got a blanket out of the engine 81, and I stood right there while they got her laid down on the blanket behind the engine. And then at that time, I think I was still a rookie on the fire department, and we didn't have enough people there to fight that vehicle fire. So I was told to grab a hose line and just contain the fire to keep it from spreading into the tree farm.
Is that what you did?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any verbal contact with this girl?
I did not.
Did you know who it was?
Later that night, I did.
Okay. and
But at the time, I did not know that's who it was.
did you know Jessica?
I went to school with Jessica.
Okay. And were you able to recognize her?
No, sir.
Okay. Was her condition that bad?
I would say so.
Did anybody else come up and help you fight the fire?
Later, it was several minutes after Will Turner showed up, and he helped me, and we worked on putting that vehicle fire out.
And did you, at any point in time, go back and speak with Jessica or have any conversation with her?
No, sir.
Tender the witness, Your Honor.
Cross.
Good morning, Mr. Cook.
Good morning.
Just a few questions for you, not too many. You indicated that you were a rookie back at that date.
Yes,
back
ma'am.
in December of 2014. You didn't have an opportunity to fill out a separate report or anything like that.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And basically, your duties were to just contain the fire for the most part.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it appeared to you that it was mainly just on the inside of the vehicle.
At that time, when we first arrived.
Said that the lighting was pretty low, pretty bad at that time. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am. It was dark.
Sir. And at the point that you saw Miss Jessica walking out of the street, you said it was 30 to 40 feet coming out of the woods area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So first you saw the woods and then on the street after that?
Yes, ma'am. She was on the north side of that road, kind of coming out of the woods to the road.
Thank you. I attended the witness, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No regret, Your Honor.
What instructions would you give Mr. Cook?
He may be fine release.
Sir, you find excused, you can return to the courtroom, return to duty, or your choice, sir. May call your next witness.
Daniel Cole.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that courtroom either.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give involving this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
State your name for the record.
Daniel Cole,
And Daniel, where are you currently employed?
Panola County.
In what capacity are you employed with Panola County?
I'm the Director of Emergency Operations for Panola County
And are you also a longtime firefighter?
since 1991.
I believe you got out of the fire department when you took your current position, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, as Director of Emergency Operations, what is your role in Panola County?
I wear multiple hats, emergency management, homeland security, search and rescue, fire coordinator, E911, and every 10 years the census.
And were you in this capacity on December the 6th of 2014?
I was.
And do you live near the Cortland community?
I live in the town of Cortland.
And you're aware of why you're here today? Did
Yes.
you respond to the scene on Heron Road on December the 6th of 2014?
I did.
And where were you located when the call first went out?
I was at my in-laws on Main Street in Cortland.
And approximately how far is Main Street, Cortland, from your in-laws' house where you were that night? Approximately how far is that from the scene?
From the scene, I would say 3/4 of a mile, maybe a
far?
mile at the most.
And did you hear Cortland get toned out to the car fire?
I did not.
How did you first find out that you had been, when were you first requested to the scene?
I received a phone call from dispatch stating that I had been requested to come out to a scene. They described it as the tree farm on Main Street, but it was actually the tree farm on Herring Road.
And did you know where that tree farm was located?
I did.
And why did they ask you to come out?
Anytime there's a injury, a fire injury or death, our office responds, completes paperwork, and assist with the fire investigation if needed.
And when you found out that an individual was involved, did you also speak to anybody with the sheriff department?
Once we got there, yes, so I requested to make sure that Panola 1, Panola 2, Panola 3 had been notified. I received a phone call, or either I called Panola 3 at some point.
Okay, when you say Panola 1, Panola 2, and Panola 3, give me the names. Who are you talking about?
Sheriff Dennis Darby, Chief Deputy Chris Franklin, and Major Barry Thompson.
And is Major Barry Thompson a detective?
Yes, sir.
So did you have a conversation with Investigator Thompson that night?
I did.
And he was actually out of town, am I correct?
He wasn't on scene. I can't speak to his whereabouts.
When you arrived on the scene, tell me what you saw.
I pulled up on scene because of where I was. I went in my personal vehicle. I pulled up on scene. To see a female laying at the back of Cortland's fire truck that was heavily burned.
Do you know Jessica Chambers?
I do not.
Who was there on scene with her at the time?
There were two Cortland's firemen, and I think they were Cole Haley and maybe Jody Marsh were there. When I got there, there was another fireman there, but he wasn't with her. I remember two people being there with her.
You mentioned a girl being on fire. Would you describe exactly what she looked like to this jury?
Well, she wasn't on fire, but she had been burned when I got there. She was sitting on a blanket, maybe a fireman's coat or vice versa. She was, hair was singed. It was soot all around her nose and her mouth. When I tried to speak to her, it was difficult. It appeared as though maybe her tongue was real thick. Her lips were constricted. There was red, splotchy places from where the blistering had occurred all over her body.
Did you attempt to speak to her?
I did.
What type of information did you attempt to obtain?
Tried to obtain who she was.
And
And
how did she respond when you asked who she was?
It took multiple attempts, but we got Jessica. We didn't start with Jessica. At one time, to me, it sounded like a Katina, a Katrina, a Courtney.
That actually helps the prosecution because it's showing that even her trying to get her own name out did not sound like the name she was giving. So the whole Derek, Eric / Quentin thing could easily go out the window then. Yeah, I think everyone is really messed up from this scene. I mean, one guy, I don't know if you saw the first guy, but the first firefighter that they had on the stand, after this scene, he quit being a firefighter and he quite clearly has some very severe PTSD.
It was a very chaotic scene. There was a lot of noise. She wasn't speaking very loudly. At one point, even laid down beside her just to get close enough to her to try to hear some of the things, the questions. And, everything, some things she said was clearer than others.
I'm going to ask you about the noise. What type of noise was it?
You had the fire truck, 2 fire trucks, the diesel engines off 2 fire trucks, the firemen running around, talking to each other, people, additional responders coming in. It was just a madhouse there for some time.
I've never actually made a fire scene, I'll tell you. What type of noise are we talking about with these fire engines?
I mean, they're diesel engines. I mean, one's a 1-ton diesel pickup and the other's a fire truck with a big diesel engine in it.
And how close were they parked to Jessica Chambers?
Within feet. I mean, we were right at the back of the Cortland's pumper.
As you talked to Jessica, did you know that something was wrong on that scene?
To be honest with you, when I got there and saw her and once we established who she was, I asked her, I said, I don't even know if I asked her what happened. I think I just asked her who did this.
And
or what happened, maybe that's what I asked.
was she still speaking in the same manner you described before?
Yes, sir. She had the more questions we asked, she would start out strong and then it would get extremely breathy, very difficult to understand.
Now, you did write a statement, and in your statement, you were able to obtain some information from her, is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me what you heard and how you heard it.
Well, we got her name finally, and we then, when we asked, who did this, it took multiple attempts, but I did hear Eric did this to me. Eric set me on fire. That's what I heard.
And was MedStat called, obviously?
Yes,
Ultimately, was she flown out to the regional medical center?
she was.
Now, after your conversation with the sheriff's department and based on your training, did you take any photographs on the scene?
I took one photograph. It was kind of a bus-style picture, and I didn't know how far out the law enforcement response was, and wanting to obtain as much information as we could before she left the scene, I did take a single picture basically from her shoulders up.
And you've seen some other pictures the sheriff's department took, correct?
I have.
And were you able to identify those pictures as what you saw that night of Jessica Chambers?
I sure can.
Is this photograph you mentioned to me in Chambers? Yes, sir. All right, and defense has seen this photograph?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right, any objections to its admission?
None, Your Honor.
All right, you may display the photograph.
I have a marked receipt.
Sir?
Oh, yeah,
You may
sorry,
have
sorry,
it
Renee. I
marked,
probably
yes,
should have
sir.
put a warning on this one. This one's not... I can't even pull dark humor into this. This is just horrifying.
Daniel, I'm going to show you two photographs. Can you describe and identify these photographs for me?
Yes, sir. There's a picture on the right. It's the one I took of Jessica Chambers on the scene.
And the picture on the left?
It's a picture that I think one of the deputies may have taken, but I recognize it.
And is this the condition that Jessica Chambers was in on December 6, 2014 when you were attempting to speak to her?
That is correct.
Don't show the photo, don't show the photo, don't show the photo. Don't show the photo.
That's Exhibit 5.
Yes.
I wonder if defense is going to be stupid enough to leave that up there the whole time she's talking again.
Daniel, in the condition Jessica was in, how difficult was it to get her to speak?
It was a struggle. At one point, I personally got frustrated because it was hard to hear her. And at the same time, I think she was equally as frustrated because we was asking the same questions over and over again.
You've been around a long time.
I have.
Have you ever seen anything like this in your years?
Never.
Describe the scene and the attitude of the other firefighters on scene.
I mean, like I said, it was chaotic. Everybody was wanting to do something to help. I mean, there was people stepping over one another. It just was people everywhere. There was people nervous, not knowing how, who, what, where, when. They were worried about people, being close by, looking, seeing, worried about their own safety. It was chaotic. I don't know how, this was the first time any of us have been involved in something like this.
And did you stay there on scene until help arrived with MedStat?
MedStat had arrived, and I left the scene to meet Panola 1, Sheriff Darby, to go make notification to the family, and we followed the ambulance down to the landing zone.
And did you, in fact, go with Sheriff Darby to notify Jessica's parents of what had happened?
We did. I did.
Oh.
Now, Daniel, switching gears,
Yes, please.
you actually live in
switch gears.
Cortland, we talked about.
Yes.
And during this trial, we're going to discuss the area of your home. Okay?
All right.
Now, are you aware of where Otto Sanford subdivision is?
I am.
And where you live, which the jury will go to your home at one point during this trial,
Why?
is there a road, is there a private drive on your property?
There's an access road that connects my property, the property around me, that goes up through Otto Sanford subdivision.
And that access road comes out where?
Otto Sanford subdivision, 51 Highway.
Is it in fact a private drive at a portion of it?
Yes, sir.
And have you ever known any individuals from Otto Sanford subdivision to use that path?
I've never seen anyone drive it. I have seen people walking through there and cutting across. Recently, there's been three-wheeler that comes through there some.
And when people from Otto Sanford walk down through there and cut across, what direction would they be headed?
They would head west, and then once they got into the opening, they would turn and go south.
And does that go right into downtown Cortland?
Yes, that's where they go to Railroad Avenue and then to Main Street.
No, Jonathan, I should specify. Last week when we did part one with the opening statements, the prosecution put an exhibit up during opening statements, and the defense left the prosecution's exhibit sitting there the entire time that she did her opening statements. It was ridiculous. And it was only after the fact she goes, oh, probably should have taken that down.
Your Honor, I tender the witness.
All right. Cross.
I don't have a high opinion of this woman.
You ought to go trip over that cord. You keep pulling on it.
Your Honor, maybe if I could get a little assistance to.
You want to scoot it up?
Yes, just a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Mr. Cole.
Good morning.
I believe you testified that you got that call from Panola County 911. It was about 8:20 or so.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the fact that you were at your in-laws, what time do you think that put you there? 8:25, something like that, on the scene?
I would say from the time I received the call to the time I made scene, strictly guesstimation because I don't have the times in front of me, I would say probably 2 to 2.5 minutes.
Okay. So 8:23?
Yes, ma'am.
When you got there, you saw who you thought to be Cole Haley and Jody Morris.
Yes, ma'am.
And just one other fire person. That would have just been Seth. Do you know him?
Well, I know who he is.
So at that point, there was no other individuals there.
You know, I can't tell you that 100%. Like I said, when I pulled up, I'm not going to say that there wasn't another fireman. I don't recall from memory.
They were rendering aid, though.
Yes,
Jody
ma'am.
Morris and Cole Haley were rendering aid to Miss Jessica, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I know Jay asked you about the fact that you did do a report back then. You
Yes.
agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Do you recognize that?
I do.
Is that your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Signature at the bottom, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to have this report admitted into evidence and marked as an exhibit.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, being no objection, be marked and admitted. All right, Ms. Palmer.
Thank you, Anna. You talked a little bit about talking to Jessica,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? And would you agree with me, your report is pretty detailed? You agree with that?
Well, I mean, yes, ma'am, it states the basics of what happened.
Yes. And if you look through it, it also indicates where things that Ms. Jessica stated to you, you put that in quotes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you will, go to the second paragraph of that statement. You see where it says, I responded to the scene.
Yes, ma'am.
Start reading there for me.
And found Cortland and Station 14 fire departments on scene extinguishing the car and a couple of firefighter EMRs rendering aid to a female patient. I approached the patient and started asking who she was. She stated Jessica. I asked Jessica who, and after a couple of times of not hearing her, she said Chambers.
Okay. And if you would please go to the next paragraph, read that for me.
I then asked what happened, and Jessica responded saying, Eric set me on fire.
Is that in quotes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So back then, you did this report about 12 hours, I think you said, after everything happened. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct?
That is correct.
And is the Eric set me on fire in quotes?
Yes, ma'am.
Continue reading for me.
I asked Jessica again what happened, and she stated multiple times, Eric set me on fire. I then asked what was Eric's last name, and Jessica responded, I don't know. It's not in quotes, because, I mean, that's what I got out of what she was saying, and she was kind of shrugging her shoulders.
Now, in those two paragraphs, did you indicate anything about her telling you that her name was Katrina or Courtney or anything like that?
No, ma'am. I didn't put it in my report.
Okay.
The report was written within 12 hours of a very traumatic, chaotic scene, and it was omitted in my report.
And the purpose for writing a report right after something happens is so that you can record it when it's fresh on your memory, correct?
Well, typically, I would wait a little longer to process everything that went on. I was asked to get this report turned in ASAP, so I did.
And at the point that you did it, you put details as specific in quotes about Eric set me on fire.
Yes, ma'am, I heard that.
All right. So your first opportunity to talk to Ms. Jessica was when she was on the ground behind the fire truck, correct?
That's correct.
And actually, you had another opportunity to speak to her. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am, I approached her again in the ambulance where
Yes.
it was not as noisy.
Okay. If you would, go 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph down there.
I then went to the ambulance to where the two ambulance personnel and firefighter paramedic Casey Austin was prepping Jessica for transport to the landing zone. I asked her again, who did this? And she said, Eric did. He set me on fire. And I asked Eric who? And again, we got the same response, like she didn't know. The 3 medical personnel acknowledged that they had heard what she'd said, and I exited the ambulance.
Yes. Thank you. And I believe that you indicated her breathing was somewhat labored.
Her breathing was labored, her speech, she struggled to get out everything she got.
Okay.
Now, to tell
But
you that some of it wasn't clear, I'm not going to say that. I mean, you could understand some things she said, but not everything.
Yes, sir. And but certainly the things you did understand her to say, you put that in the report.
I did.
Okay.
Quotes.
In quotes, you said.
Yes.
Now, your report indicates that you also gave this same information that's in your report. Eric set me on fire. Eric, I don't know his last name. What's in here? You stated that to law enforcement. I think Edward
sir.
Dixon, I believe.
It was Edward Dixon or Panola 10 or Panola 22, which would be, Panola 10 would be Darrell House, Panola 22, I think, is Maurice Market. I'm not sure exactly who. I know I gave it, I'm more than positive I gave it to Edward Dixon, but I also verbally relate it to the other two.
Yes, sir. And Barry Thompson as well by phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mr. Cole, you were also given some information that from two of the, or at least one of the other firefighters, Cortland Fire, that there was a suspicious person on the scene. You recall getting that information?
Yes, ma'am.
And let me make sure I had the name. It would have either been, you know, Will Turner?
I know Will Turner, yes, ma'am.
You do. And he's with Cortland Fire Department,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
And I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes,
sir?
ma'am.
Okay.
I do.
And then Brandy Davis, I believe. You know him as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And they gave you some information that they thought they had seen a suspicious older black male on the scene of the fire. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am. Seems like I do recall them telling me that.
Yes. And they went as far as to give you a tag number of this
Yes, ma'am.
person that they thought was out there. You
That's
received
correct.
that?
I do remember receiving the tag number.
Gave that information to Edward Dixon.
They gave it to the law enforcement. Yes, ma'am.
Now, my last questions have to do with, I believe that, I'm not sure if you're in this same capacity now, but you're a co-coordinator of search and rescue team.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I get that correct?
You're correct.
Okay. And it's your understanding that back then, this was December 6th, maybe a couple of days after that, that there was a search and rescue team sent out.
We were requested to come out and walk the side of the road and see if we discovered anything that could be considered evidence.
And you thought that keys were found.
At some point in time, the discussion of keys came up. I don't know that anybody on our search and rescue team found them, but and it may have been the keys is what prompted us to go out. I don't know. You would have to refer that question to someone else. We were requested and we came out.
Okay. And at that point, basically what you're saying is you don't know the results of that.
No, ma'am. Never laid eyes on them.
Okay. And after you gave your statement or your report back then, basically there were no additional encounters with law enforcement from you.
No, ma'am.
Courts and judges, just a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
I would tend to witness, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
Daniel, she asked, Ms. Palmer asked you about this being fresh on your mind. You recall that?
Yes.
Is this something that will ever not be fresh on your mind?
I see that picture I took every morning and every night.
She asked you about the search and rescue. When would the search and rescue team, this happened on a Saturday night, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And when would the search and rescue team have been called out?
Again, I don't have anything in front of me. I would guess it would have been Monday afternoon or Tuesday. I can't speak to the exact date and time.
Ms. Palmer also asked you about a suspicious black male being on scene, is that correct?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
suspicious male?
Yes.
I'm not sure how she referred it. How large is Cortland?
1 square mile.
Something like this happens, you got a lot of nosy people around?
Yes, sir. On anything.
Were there a lot of people out that night?
There was.
And did you, along with other firemen, attempt to secure the area of the scene?
As best we could. I didn't. I was tending to Jessica and trying to figure out who she was and who might have done it.
And let me ask you a question based on your experience in securing crime scenes. Does that sometimes include running people off?
It does.
Finally, you stated in your report what you said you heard. You've already testified. Is that correct? Is that correct?
That's correct.
You've already testified as to the condition that Jessica was in her speaking.
Yes.
Is this what Jessica Chambers looked like on December 16, 2014, while you were talking to her?
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
What instructions would you give the witness?
I would ask Mr. Cole to be finally excused.
Mr. Cole, you're finally excused. You can leave or you may remain in the courtroom. Your choice, sir. Thank you. You may take your exhibit down, Mr. Hale. All right, you may call your next witness.
Brandy Davis.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right. What is your name?
Brandy Davis.
All I'm going to say is that if you do not like the trial that we're covering, there is a little box in the top right-hand corner of your browser that has a little X in it. No one's forcing you to watch. So, what was his name? Brandy Davis. This is like the second person in the area that's had what I would consider a feminine name. We had Jody and now Brandy. I'm going to assume it's spelt with a Y. Although they never go back and fix the captions anyway.
And Brandy, are you a volunteer firefighter with the Cortland Fire Department?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you done that?
Certified in 94. State certified.
Okay, can you speak up? Just pull that mic, other one. Yeah.
I've been a state certified fireman in Mississippi since 1994.
Okay. And how long have you been with Cortland?
Approximately a month before this incident.
Okay. And where were you a volunteer firefighter before Cortland?
Bynum Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay.
Also
These folks
Panola
are
County.
from Pike County. So where is Bynum in relation to Cortland?
It would be the southeast part of Panola County District.
Okay. So it's not real far from Cortland?
No, sir.
Okay. Where were
I'm not a fan of the fact that
or did you...
I'm not really a fan of the fact that this judge and the court reporter aren't having them spell out their names. So I'm sort of like taking my best guess based on the captions.
Receive a call out or tone out on the evening of December the 6th of 2014?
I was in Batesville at El Mariaca Mexican restaurant.
All right, you speak up. They're going to hear you.
I was in the town of Batesville at El Mariaca's Mexican restaurant.
Okay, and what was the nature of the call out that you received?
The initial tone was a car fire at the tree farm.
And did you, in fact, respond?
I did.
Okay. And which route did you take from the restaurant here in town to get to Cortland?
Highway 6 to 51, and then straight down the main street of Cortland.
Approximately how long did it take you to get there? Do you remember?
I really don't.
Okay. And then, were you familiar with the area that you were being sent to?
Somewhat.
Okay. Did you have any trouble finding it?
No, sir.
All right, tell the jury, how did you get there? Were you in your personal vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And tell the jury what you heard on the radio while you were responding to the scene.
I heard Jody Mars come over, and what went from a car fire in a tree farm to a vehicle on fire with a female severely burned and in the road as well.
How was Jody, or how were you perceiving what Jody was saying on the radio? Could you hear the tone of his voice?
Yes, sir. Very well.
And what was going through your mind as you were hearing the tone of his voice?
I knew something. He was in some kind of trouble. Or, you know, it wasn't just an ordinary call.
And what did you find upon your arrival at the scene?
I found Jessica standing initially, and they, I told them as EMR, we needed to get a blanket around her. They told me somebody's going for a blanket. I went for my turnout jacket. We put the blanket around her, and I put my turnout jacket over. As we laid her down near the fire truck.
Okay. You're an EMR, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And tell the jury what an EMR is.
It's basically a first responder. We're the first, that in this case, we're the first aid in the chain of EMS to give life support to a victim.
Describe for the jury the assessment that you were making of Jessica and what you observed about her when you first began to look at her.
Walking on the scene, she was standing. I could see, the back, her back, high first degree burn, some second. Laying her down whenever I started to talk to her. Because EMR, there's not a whole lot that could have been done from my standpoint until further EMS got there. Talking was the best way to judge airways, breathing, and things like that, as well as comfort her.
And did you begin to talk to her?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, and what did you say to her?
I asked her name, and she replied, Jessica. I said, Jessica who? And she said, Chambers. And just, basically in conversation, I asked her, I said, I'd already been advised that this was pretty much a crime scene from Jody Mars. And I asked her, I said, baby girl, who done this to you?
Did she respond?
Yes, sir.
Wait,
What
he
did she
actually
say?
referred to her as
She
baby
said
girl?
Eric.
Ooh, none of that like
Did
that.
did you continue to talk to her?
Sir?
Were you able to keep her talking?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what was her, I guess for lack of a better word, what was her health status as you were sitting there with her? Yeah, I believe you testified a moment ago there wasn't much you could do for her. Is that right? Why is that?
It's just burns of that nature in the field. It's beyond my capabilities to do anything other than package the patient.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 5. Is this the way that Jessica looked? Bottom photo here
Yes, sir.
as you were talking to her.
Ryan, look, it's literally in the guidelines when you enter the chat that I generally don't care about people having a go at me, but if people aren't here and all you're doing is derailing my chat, then, I'd rather you're not. So, yeah, look, I prefer that you're not. But if you really have to, get it out of your system, but I honestly don't care about anyone's thoughts on anyone else.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did she have black soot around her nose?
Yes, it's just like in that picture.
Oh, wait,
She had black soot around her mouth.
Mouth.
Was she in distress?
Well, look, if you want to super chat,
Yes,
then I'm
sir.
not going to stop you, am I?
And how would you describe the distress that she was in?
She was a fighter. She was trying to answer questions. She was trying to tell us, who she was. Pretty outstanding if you ask me.
What about the vehicle itself? Did you observe the vehicle?
After the fact,
Okay.
I went up there and make sure it wasn't, that was only her in there.
All right, you got to speak up now.
After we had packaged her and got her to the landing zone,
Okay.
I briefly looked, to make sure it was no other patients in the vehicle, or, if we was changing over to recovery.
Sir, your voice is trailing off real badly,
Yes.
and jury can't hear you.
Okay.
So speak, just speak up. I think the microphone's picking you up, but you need to speak a little louder, okay?
All right.
All right, thank you.
No, Jason, I think that's the way that they were.
Let me know if you can't hear, all right?
recording
Again,
it at
thank
the
you.
time.
Ask your last question again, please.
Yes, sir. When you arrived at the scene, was the fire still going?
To the best of my knowledge.
Do what now?
To the best of my knowledge.
Okay. And when you went back up there, was the fire out after Jessica had been packaged and taken to the landing zone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You also, I believe, mentioned that you observed somebody there at the scene at some point in time when you were there. Is that correct?
It was brought to my attention, yes, sir.
Okay. And also, I believe you went down and confronted this person. Is that correct?
No, sir, we did not confront the person.
Okay. Did anybody in your presence tell this person to move on out of there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I mean, not in my physical sight, no, sir.
Did you obtain a tag number?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you turn that over to
Daniel Cole, yes, sir.
When the tone out came, it would have been probably around 8:06, 8:07.
Leading.
Ma'am?
I apologize. I was just going to object to leading the witness as the time.
All right, your objection's noted. I'll overrule the objection. You
I
may
was going to
continue.
say, come on.
Where exactly were you when the call came out?
And El Mariachi's Mexican restaurant
And where is that?
in town of Batesville.
Okay. All right, you're familiar with the Cracker Barrel area, is that
Yes,
correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that in the area?
In the strip mall, a little bit past Cracker Barrel, yes, sir.
Okay. So there's a retail outlet mall, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that restaurant is in there, so you had to respond from there to Cortland?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tend to the witness, Your Honor.
Cross?
Are you going to fuck this one up? Oh, damn it, I went the whole night with that one. Oh, well.
Good morning, Mr. Davis.
Morning.
If you could, I was sitting on the other side of the room. Could you speak up just a little bit more?
Yes, ma'am.
For my sake, for sure.
ma'am.
And
Sorry
then
about
everyone I know can hear you. Thank you for that. I have a few questions for you this morning. You agreed that basically you were the first EMR firefighter on scene.
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Yes. And when you got there, first person you spoke with would have been Jody Mars.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he was there and he advised you of what the scene situation was.
Right.
And there was also, I believe you testified that it seemed like it was a crime scene at that point.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You approached Miss Jessica and started talking to her shortly after that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know you mentioned about a turnout coat. Is that a pretty big firefighter coat?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You took that coat and placed that to give additional warmth to Jessica.
Right.
Okay. As well as I believe there were blankets there also.
Yes, ma'am. The blanket was around her first, and my turnout jacket was laid over it.
Yes. And that was to provide her with additional body heat,
Yes, ma'am.
comfort, that type thing.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe from there you did what would be considered Is this EMR terminology patient assessment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you will, you indeed wrote out a report.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And may I approach? May
You
I
may.
approach the witness, Your Honor? Is that it? Is that what you wrote out?
Yes, ma'am.
It is, okay. And it would have been written just a little bit after that date, December 8th.
December 8th, that's correct.
Yes. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to have his statement marked as an exhibit and entered into evidence at this time.
Any objection? No. There being no objection, it'll be marked and admitted.
Your testimony earlier is that Jessica appeared to be a fighter. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And I believe you said she was also trying to tell you who she was. You agree
Yes,
with
ma'am.
that? Okay. And would you also agree that she was trying to tell you who did this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you will, go about 7 lines down. Let's start at this time. If you could start reading there for me.
At this time, as my patient assessment, I asked baby girl, can you tell me your name?
Okay, do this for me. Read a little bit slower, a
Ma'am.
little bit louder.
I, at the time, hold on just a second. At this time, as my patient assessment, I asked baby girl, can you tell me your name? She replied, Jessica Chambers.
Okay, and I'm going to stop you there. Did you put that language, baby girl, can you tell me your name? She replied, Jessica Chambers. That's all in quotes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that means to you that that's what she said to you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Keep reading for me.
At this time, I knew her airway was stable and her level of consciousness.
Okay. And so basically you were saying that she could talk, you understood her, airway stable, level of consciousness clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Keep reading for me.
Heard radio traffic at the time, MedStat was on scene.
Okay. And so you're saying heard radio traffic at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
Read that next part again.
MedStat on scene.
Yes. Okay. Keep going.
At that time, I comforting her and maintained her conscious, and as well as asked, who did this to you?
Okay.
She
So
rep-
this would have been, I'm sorry, keep reading. I apologize.
I asked, who did this to you? She replied, Eric.
Keep going.
I then said, baby girl, what's Eric's last name? She replied, Eric. My thoughts, it was like she thought I knew him, or knew who Eric was.
Now, thus far in what you're reading and what you prepared in your report back then, you actually spelled out the name Eric, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is Eric also in quotes in what you just read?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How was Eric spelled?
As far as I know, E-R-I-C.
Yes, that's what you have in your
She's
report,
harping on about
correct?
the spelling of
Yes, ma'am.
Eric.
Okay. Okay. Continue reading for me.
I asked again, baby girl, who did this? She replied, Eric, again.
So that's what you meant by the fighter part. She was continually trying to talk to you, correct?
She was doing her best.
Yes. Okay. And what she did was to tell you the name one more time, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me move you away from your report for just a little bit. At some point after Jessica had been placed into the ambulance, you recall actually going over to the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
You do?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what happened is that you went over there to determine if there was anybody else in the car.
That's correct.
Okay. You noticed that there was something else in the car that caught your attention.
Yes, ma'am. Looked to be a can of Freon or something of that nature.
A can of Freon?
Looked to be.
Okay. Okay. If you will, let me point you back to your report just for a moment.
Okay.
Let's go to the second page of it. See where it says, "at that time"?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Start reading there for me.
At that time, Panola County Sheriff's Office investigator made scene. I reported no one else in vehicle and nothing like a purse or anything visible. And the only thing odd was a can of Freon in the passenger side rear floorboard.
One more sentence.
I told him that everything that's stated above on what she personally told me as a patient.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Davis. Now, at some point, there was some additional information that you had gotten about a tag number.
Yes, ma'am.
And that would have been from a person that both yourself and you communicated quite a bit with, I believe it was Will Turner.
Yes, ma'am.
Both of you are from Cortland Fire Department.
Yes, ma'am.
And this particular tag number of the person that was out there was suspicious enough for you to make note of that.
That's correct.
And so what happened was that a tag was gotten. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
And then that tag information, I believe, was conveyed to Daniel Cole.
That's correct.
So not just some onlooker, the person was legitimately suspicious to you, to the two of you.
She wasn't part of fire EMS that we knew of.
Yes, sir. Of course, indulgence testimony. I attended the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Redirect.
Brandy, who was on the scene with you as another EMR? I've taken to the bottom of your report.
Sandra Haley, Station 14.
She's from Pope, is that correct?
That's correct.
And she was standing there with you as you were talking to Jessica.
Yes, sir.
Who was leaning over Jessica? You, if you want to refer your report, you can. Who was closer to Jessica, you or Sandra?
I mean, I guess it would be both of us because, I mean, we was...
Go to the first page of your report and go to the very bottom.
I was leaned down, and then Miss Sandra come in to my immediate. I was leaned down at Jessica's head, and Miss Sandra was to my immediate right.
Nothing further, Your Honor. He may be found excused.
All right, sir. Sir, you may be found excused. You may remain in the courtroom, your choice. All right? May call your next witness.
Shane Mills.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir.
Mr. Mills, we having a little trouble with the mic, so I need you to speak up so everybody can hear, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, state your name for me.
Shane Mills.
And Mr. Mills, are you a member of the Cortland Fire Department?
Yes, sir.
And were you a member of the Cortland Fire Department on December the 6th of 2014?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you in fact respond to a call of a car fire on Heron Road?
Yes, sir.
And tell us how that call came out.
I just got through eating dinner. I believe I was right there at 6 and 51, approaching Highway 6 and 51 right here.
I'm going to stop you. This jury is actually not from here. Highway 6 and 51, where is that located?
That's here in the center of Batesville, right,
Okay.
right up here.
And approximately how far is that from Cortland?
Maybe 5 miles.
Now, is Cortland directly down Highway 51?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you responded out, did you go directly to the scene?
Yes, sir.
And tell us what you observed. Tell the jury what you observed when you arrived on the scene.
When I arrived, I kind of, the road's real narrow, so I parked kind of down the hill, and that way if oncoming traffic or something come, they could see, something's going on. And I have my turnout gear in my vehicle, so I took my turnout gear out and I walked up the hill there to the back of the engine, which the engine, the pumper, the tanker, fire truck. And I put my gear on, I put my pants on, and I noticed Cole there to the left of me. And he was kneeled down in a kneeling position beside who at the time I didn't know was Jessica.
Let me back you up. When you received the call out, who did you hear on the radio?
When we got the tone, it was through dispatch.
You never heard one of your guys on the radio?
I did, but I can't, I can't pinpoint exactly which one it was.
Who was on the scene when you arrived?
It was Cole and Seth and Jody, and I believe that was it at the time.
So you saw the young woman.
Yes, sir.
Do you know Jessica Chambers, or did you know Jessica Chambers?
Yes, sir.
Did you recognize this woman as Jessica Chambers?
At the time, I did not.
Describe for the jury what you saw when you first got there.
One of the worst things you could imagine. I mean, you can't. I can't picture it for y'all. She was burning. Her hair was, beautiful blonde, and you look at it at the time, and her hair's just it's fried.
Who was kneeling with her?
Cole was.
And I'm assuming she was on the ground.
Yes, sir.
What was Cole saying?
He was holding her hand. He was standing there, just hang on, just please. We have help. They're coming. I promise you.
Did you ever hear anyone ask her who did this to you?
Not that I can recall.
Did you ever speak directly to Jessica?
No, sir.
Did firefighters begin to respond in droves?
Oh, it was, yes. I mean, it was just one after another, and I mean, it
I'm
was
not stressed, Vicky.
people running over people. It was, I mean, it was
If people have other things that they want to watch, that's up to them.
What about non-firefighters?
Yeah. I mean, they see fire trucks, we call them rubberneckers up here. People want to look and see what's going on, but
We got plenty of them, don't we?
yeah.
Did you have plenty of them out there that night?
Yes, sir.
Was the sheriff's department on scene when you got there?
No, sir.
Did y'all try to secure the area as best as possible?
Yeah, to an extent, not really, because when everything's going so fast, it's hard, you're kind of in a tunnel vision, but once we kind of realized what was going on, then yes, because then everybody was scared,
Why were you scared?
Well, I mean, you're sitting here looking at a lady that's burned.
You're kidding, right?
There's a car. You don't know if somebody did it, what happened. What the case is.
You're looking around to see whether or not someone else is going to try and burn you.
Would I be accurate in saying everybody was on high alert?
Very.
Y'all looking around?
Very.
Oi.
Watching everything?
Yes, sir.
Object to leading.
Your Honor, I'll move on.
I'm overrule the objection. I think that's harmless leading. You may continue.
At one point, did you leave Cole and Jessica?
What'd you say now?
At one point, did you get away from Cole and Jessica?
At what point?
At one point.
Oh, yes, sir.
And why did you leave Cole and Jessica?
To catch my breath.
Would have been traumatizing for him
you know,
too.
I put my turnout jacket on and kind of walked away and kind of stepped away, looked at the car. You know, I didn't physically go up to the car. You know, I was kind of at the roadside. Because when you see something like that, me personally, I can't just hover over something like that.
Other firemen responded.
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, did MedStat respond?
Yes, sir.
What was your role in, what assistance did you provide when everybody arrived on the scene?
When everybody arrived and we had MedStat arrived, I did my best to help MedStat get what they needed. As far as, you know, like getting stretcher out, or, you know, if they needed me to get the body board out, or whatever the case was, you know.
You were there to help?
Yes, sir.
Now, once MedStat was able to take care of Jessica, what did you do? What did you do after that?
They said that they was going to try to fly her to the med. So we had to set up a LZ, and what that is a landing coordinates for the helicopter to land.
While you were on the scene with Cole and Jessica, describe the noise level for the jury.
Well, I mean, you have, like, where she was laying was at the back of the engine, which is the pumper, right? And you know, you have engines running, you have the engine running, you have the pump on the truck running, you have another brush truck, that pump's running, you have cars coming up, you have sirens, you have, you know, people coming up, what's going on, you know, what we need to do, where do we need to go, you know.
Was everybody trying to help?
Yes, sir, for the most part.
When you say the diesel engine's running, and then you talk about the pump, is the pump noise in excess of the diesel engine, or is it all the same? I'm
no,
not familiar.
sir. You have the engine off of the fire truck, and then you also have a pump on the brush truck. It's you know, it's got a little tank, and you have a manual, you have a pump you have to crank up on it as well.
Is that the power generated to spray the water?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you were there with Cole, did you hear Cole talking to Jessica?
Yes, sir.
And was Jessica attempting to respond?
Yes, sir.
Could you understand anything of what she was saying?
I could not.
Were you able to make out any words from Jessica standing where you were?
No, sir.
As she was trying to speak, can you describe the tone of her voice?
Well, I really couldn't understand what she was saying from where I was at. You know, like Cole was kneeled down in a kneeling position holding her hand, and he had his head kind of turned, you know, to where he could try to hear her. But it was, you know, her trying to speak, trying to talk, was very faint, because like I said, where I was at was right beside him. I couldn't understand what she was saying.
Your Honor, I tender the witness.
Cross. You need some water? You okay? Would you like some water?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get the witness some water. Just a moment, we're getting the witness some water.
I'll probably call it a day after the end of this witness.
All right, Ms. Palmer.
Okay, thank you, Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Mills.
Good morning.
It's morning, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm already in the afternoon.
Hey, it's okay.
This woman, I swear.
How long had you been with the Cortland Fire Department back in December of 2014?
I believe I was there 3 years before.
Okay. And you said that you were some distance away.
Wait, have you already submitted it, or did you want to have a discussion about it? Oh, is due today. Emailed a copy since it was a discussion. All right. Look, in that case, after this witness, provided it's all right with you, I'm happy to have a look and we can have a quick squiz over it. But that's entirely up to you, or if you just want me to keep it private.
Before you got to the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You recall, basically when you got there, it was only Cole, Seth, and Jody were there.
Yes, ma'am. To my knowledge.
To your knowledge. Okay. And would you say your duties were basically confined to putting the fire out?
My duties was to help anybody or anything that needed help to be done.
Okay. Let me rephrase that. Basically, what you ended up doing, though, was, for the most part, extinguishing the fire.
No, ma'am.
Did not? Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that?
Well, that's a piece of a statement that I wrote. It's not very good, but
Okay.
it's what I wrote.
Okay. And would have been written, you think, next day within 12 hours or so, right after everything happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, I would like to have his statement marked as an exhibit and admitted into evidence.
Any objection?
No, sir, Your Honor.
There being no objection, it'll be marked and admitted. That'll be 8, Kathy.
I know that I asked that you extinguish the fire. You also did some other things with MedStat, and also you went to the church as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Read your statement for me. I know it's short, but let me see what you wrote out that day.
It said, Station 8 was told to a car fire on Main Street, Cortland. When I arrived, Cohaley was with the patient. I helped extinguish the fire. Once MedStat arrived, I helped MedStat.
Ooh,
then
slow down. Slow down just a little bit.
Slow down. That lady's got to write down everything you say.
I apologize.
That's all right. Start over.
Take a breath.
Station 8 was home to a car fire on Main Street, Cortland. When I arrived, Cohaley was with the patient. I helped extinguish fire. Once MedStat arrived, I helped MedStat. Then followed MedStat to the church where we met Flight 1 that was taking her to the med.
Yes. And when you got there, Cohaley was there with the patient.
That's correct.
Okay. But would you agree that at that point you weren't as close to Miss Jessica where you could understand anything she was saying?
That's correct.
It was pretty traumatic for you that night?
Very.
And so you said that there were several fire trucks there?
It was just 2. Yeah, it was.
It was 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And basically, the people who were out there were responders, first responders.
For the most part, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, a lot of them. You agree?
A lot.
From Pope Fire Department. You agree?
Yes, ma'am.
And definitely from Cortland Fire Department.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then at some point, law enforcement arrived.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And would have been Daniel Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we had lots of people out there that were pretty much dealing with the situation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Course indulgence, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to make sure, did you know Ms. Chambers before that day?
Yes, ma'am.
You did? Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
Keep it brief, Counselor.
Shane, I believe you testified to this earlier, but Ms. Palmer asked you a question. While you were there with Cole, did you lean down while Cole was talking to Jessica?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As far as, you know, he was in a kneeling position. And I kind of squatted down.
Cole was closer to her than you were.
Yes, sir.
Now, just to get your role out in front of this jury, you were there to help everybody, right?
Everybody. Anybody that needed help, that was my job.
Did you first attempt to help Cole?
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't even know where to start with that, Vicky, to be honest.
Were you the primary person handling the fire?
No, sir.
Did you go to help them?
Yes, sir.
I believe your statement says you helped MedStat
Yes, sir.
and you helped the helicopter, is that right?
Yes, sir.
I suspect something similar to what I would expect for him to get
This witness, I
over
would
there,
ask you to be finally excused.
which would be at the
All right,
moment.
so you're
probably
fine,
not a lot.
excused. You may remain in the courtroom if you'd like, sir. You can leave. Thank you. All right, we're going to take our morning recess now. I will put the jury into their jury room.
was the last
Ladies and
time?
gentlemen, please remember my cautionary remarks. Please do not discuss the case among yourselves at this point, as I have always instructed you to do that. So anyway, I will send for you when we're ready. Courtroom will remain in order till the jury is excused.
And that'll be where we call it a day in terms of the trial. Jonathan sent me a copy of an assignment that he's submitting in relation to a proposed 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And we sort of had a bit of a talk about it on stream a little while ago, and apparently it was due today, so he's been kind enough to send me a copy of what he's going to submit. He's happy to share with the class, so I figure why the hell not? Let's have a look. So, the 28th Amendment. Persons held in high esteem, either voted by the people or appointed by the president, except in special circumstance, shall have a lifetime limit of not more than 12 years in each position. Term limits, love it. We're already going... Nice. Senate. Persons elected to the Senate shall serve no more than 2 terms or no more than 15 years in their lifetime. Okay. So we're eliminating career politicians. I like that. Persons elected to Congress shall serve no more than 6 terms or 13 years in their lifetime. Federal judgeships. Ooh, this is where it'll get spicy. Persons appointed to positions on the federal bench shall not remain in that position for a period longer than 12 years. Okay. I can understand why you've gone with 12 years. I probably would have said 15 to 18 just because, so you've got that period of continuity, provided that they've got a period where they've actually practiced, and because, I mean, there's certain ones here where if you've worked in the prosecutor's office and similar, you know, you can almost walk into, certain positions, shall we say. Persons appointed to the federal bench shall serve no more than 3 positions on the federal bench in their lifetime. 3 positions on the federal bench shall count as one of their 3 lifetime positions in federal government. That's okay. Any person who has held the office of one house can be eligible to be elected to the other house. However, any person who runs for office in any federal office can only hold an elected office in 3 branches in their lifetime. This shall include positions as federal judges. You really put some thought and effort into this. So that's basically saying that if you've spent time working as a federal judge, be it at whatever level, you can't abuse the position by then getting elected into Congress. I like this. This is well played. Thought of 15, but then I figured that would have been state positions. Okay. Although judges are appointed, they shall be held to the same standard. Judges shall be subject to congressional oversight and shall have a mandatory 12-year term limit on any appointment. I don't agree with the congressional oversight because that's the whole point of having the the limit on the position. If it was that they had a life appointment, then I would fully expect that they have congressional oversight because you still do need the separation of powers. You don't want judges to be able to be influenced one way or another. I would say that would be separate timeframes, Jason. Or like cumulative in total would make more sense, I think. Shall have a mandatory 12th term. Federal judges shall have a limit of no more than 3 appointments in their lifetime. However, judges may continue a political career with their judgeship counting as one position in the government. I like this. If a person shall be voted into office as a representative of the House of Congress, that person shall be eligible to run for no more than 6 terms, equaling 12 years. Should a person be elected to the office of Congress in a special election and serve in Congress for a single year or less, that individual shall be eligible to run for an additional 12 years. I like that you put a caveat in there. That's good. If a person shall be voted into office as a representative in the Senate, although that would be able to be abused potentially. Because then you could just have career politicians that would stand aside, wait for an opportunity, and then go. No, I suppose it doesn't really matter. If a person shall be voted into office as a representative of the Senate, that person shall be eligible to run for no more than 2 terms equaling 12 years. Should a person be elected to the office of Senate in a special election serving the Congress for 3 years or less, that individual shall be eligible for an additional 12 years, so 15 years maximum. Okay. Should a person serve on the federal bench and wish to run for office, they may do so. However, the federal bench does count as one of their 3 lifetime federal services. If the additional were to serve in both houses, then they would be ineligible to run for president. Okay. Should a person choose to run for the office of president or vice president, they shall be eligible so long as they have been elected to less than 3 federal positions in their lifetime and meet all other constitutional requirements. Being the vice president does not count against the person in question should they then choose to run for president later, since the 22nd Amendment does not disqualify any individual from running for president after serving as vice president. Okay. I think you can probably tighten the language up on that, but it makes sense. I understand what you're going for. I personally haven't read the 22nd. I've still got to finish going through the actual Constitution myself. But I like how you've set this up. I still think you probably could have tied in the limitation on the accumulation of wealth whilst in Congress, because that could have played in very nicely in there as to be included with the limitations. Yes, he's done the research. Of course, he's done research on it. Each time frame so they can build a rep for presidential run. Yep. As I stated before, federal judgeships do qualify as positions. Should an individual wish to run for president or vice president, but have served as a senator, congressperson, and a federal judge, then that would disqualify them from running on the presidential ballot. I like it. I like the way that you phrased it. Should add that no insider trading while in office. My issue is just with, as I said, it's just with inequitable accumulation of wealth by use of inside information. I mean, just because it's not illegal doesn't mean that it's in the best interests. Time to get the lobbyists out of Washington. I'm just against career politicians in general, so that's why I'm actually quite impressed with this, the way that it's been phrased and it's run. I think 12 years is enough that someone that actually wants to make change will do it. I think that it's enough that if someone is abusing their position, well, you know, I mean, they can be removed for other reasons, but at least it's limiting the damage that they can do. It's just making sure that their replacement isn't... Because now I'm just picking it apart in terms of how this could be abused. Making money while in office should almost be another amendment. No, I agree with you on that. I was just trying to think of what the best way to... Like, if you were only able to get a single amendment through in your lifetime, you're obviously going to try and shove as much of it in as you can. See, my only concern would be, and it's an ancillary thing, and it's probably not something that you could guard against anyway, but being in a situation where you've got, say, an elected official, but it's quite obvious that someone behind the scenes is pulling the string. So, like people allege is going on with Biden Obama, But I mean, I suppose that's neither here nor there. No family member or any person elected to any political position can ever run for a hold office of any type ever. See, AP got that, but then if you realise that would then mean that, for example, RFK wouldn't be running right now. Or, sorry, he wouldn't be involved in politics. So that's where you got to draw the line, because there are legitimate circumstances where it's appropriate, but what you don't want is where an individual is able to abuse the process and, in effect, exceed the limitation period by controlling somebody. But, I mean, it's not really something you can really guard against, I suppose. I was wanting to make it a little tighter for the Supreme Court to interpret than, say, the 2nd or the 2nd or the 22nd. No, that's fair enough, here's the thing. I understand where you're coming from, but what I will say is, from a statutory interpretation perspective, which I do occasionally, what you want to do is use as little verbose language to make a detailed explanation as possible, because every additional word is an opportunity for a politician to twist the words. I can understand, particularly in relation to the Second Amendment, for example, the comma and that sort of thing, wanting to be very detailed in it. I'm just saying you could probably tighten up the language in certain areas, but I think for the purposes, you've done well. No career politician would ever vote this in. No, I agree with you, Boosh. But for the purposes of the assignment, I think they've done. I think it's been well done. Don't care. A Kennedy, Clinton, Bush, Obama should ever be allowed in DC or office ever again. Fair enough. Look at how many times the second's been debated. Yes, and you got to remember as well, as bad as it sounds, you gotta remember and think about your interpretation of what is. Like, it can be something as stupid as that. But honestly, I think you've done a good job, and fingers crossed you get a half-decent score on it. But, no, you're very welcome. Honestly, I was more than happy to have a look over it. I think that I'll go back on what I specifically said there, and I'll just say that in terms of using the word should, make that in the event that, because, again, should has been interpreted differently. And you probably say they are entitled to do so as opposed to they may do so. But now I'm just being finicky about language. Oh, the federal bench does... However, appointment to the federal bench will count as a lifetime appointment of federal services, which shall count against their 3 lifetime appointments. Considering that the average age in class is 19. Fair enough. In the event that an individual were to serve in both houses, they will then be ineligible to run for president. God, I could actually sit here and rewrite it. I'm not trying to do that. I swear to God. I think you've done well. Yeah, look, it's just a pet peeve for me. I would suggest changing just should to in the event that. But other than that, go, submit, do well. I think you've done a good job there. So, all right, peeps. I am going to my regional office tomorrow. So I shall... Tomorrow will be a fairly laid-back sort of stream, and I will more than likely be just doing funny videos or something. Did you see the photo of your favourite singer that I sent you? Oh, God, what did you send me now, Stinge? Wait, what's this? Hang on, sorry, we got something breaking. God damn it. Okay, hang on. We're not going anywhere for 2 seconds. No, it's not wind. Very funny. Sarah Boone has just filed a motion to dismiss. It's 3 pages. And the page is not up there for some reason. Hang on, let me go down to the trial stream one just so I can pull that up. There we go. All right. Sarah Boone, inmate number, blah, 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 referred to the judge, of course. Sarah Boone, restraints placed on... Oh my God, why is she doing this? Once in jeopardy on 13/4/2020 at the arraignment. Authority, the Constitution of the United States, Amendment 6. Seriously, that's how you're gonna phrase that? State of Florida has not met the requirements or proven good cause of delay. Ineffective substandard state provided attorneys should have made this request long ago, proving this as a fact. Oh, good God, here we go. I feel like I need to play this in the Darth Vader voice, but I can't bring myself to. She's annexed a copy of the Bill of Rights. Come on. Come on. Wasn't me saying shh on video, that was another Sarah Boone. Gotta give it to her for doing it herself. Well, the irony is, we were literally just talking about amendments to the Bill of Rights, so... Are you fucking kidding me? That's it? That's the entirety of her basis for a motion to dismiss? She's making a motion to dismiss on the basis that she had a right to a speedy trial which has been violated. It was her fault the trial got delayed? Mm-hmm. And she's attached a copy of the Bill of Rights. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by impartial jury of the state and district where the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have previously been ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process of obtaining witnesses in his favour, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defence. Don't dox Sarah, she'll get flooded with love letters. Shut up, Meg. Holy crap balls. Oh, that's funny. I'm not laughing at the Sixth Amendment. I'm laughing at the fact that she's sitting there going, this whole thing has taken way too long, and I had ineffective, spelt with one F, substandard state-provided attorney should have made this request a long time ago, proving this as a fact. That is not how the right to a speedy trial works, Sarah. I know that you have to appear pro se now, but dear God, I'm going to feel so sorry for that judge. It's going to be a complete and utter shitstorm, and I don't get to stream it. I'm really upset about this. But anyway. All right. Bloody hell. Also, thank you very much for sending that through. Oh, you're talking about the Lizzo stuff? No, I don't want to give that lumper any airtime, so that's fine. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Like I said, tomorrow will be a... You can stream it for me. No, I just mean that I'm going to be too tired. It's not that I can't stream the trial. It's that I won't be here in the middle of the night to stream the trial. I mean, look, maybe if Jeff decides that he wants to do one of those like half things, maybe. When Sarah Boone's trial, though, why won't you stream it? Just because it's done in the middle of the night for me. So, do you really want me sitting here going, what? She said, what now? That's why I don't go on other people's streams as well, because for me, it's like 2 a.m. in the morning. The last time I went on, fucking, what's his name? Oh, that's going to really annoy me. I was going to say something really bad then, but I'm not going to. I will refrain from saying that. Laid Back News. The last time I went on Laid Back News, it's literally 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, depending on daylight savings for me. And I literally just sit there and go, all these guys are talking legitimate legal tactics or in-depth legal arguments, and I'm sitting there going, can I keep my eyes open? Is this anything that I can comment on? Here's a story about cricket. And watch the viewership drop. So for anyone wondering why I have very little to do with other law tubers, it's because I feel like I don't contribute anything to their streams. I don't feel like there's anything they can really discuss on mine because I don't talk about the same stuff that they do. And we already know I have imposter syndrome. It's something that I'm trying to work on anyway. We can try words on stream tomorrow. Look, I'm more than happy to give that a go, Stinge. But anyway, people, I got to get out of here because I've got to get some sleep. As always, please remember you're not a piece of shit, and it is a good idea if you get out there and try and do one small thing, just one small thing that makes the world a better place, because you're not a piece of shit. You have value and you do contribute to society. And thank you very much to everyone that has hit that like button. Double check whether or not you're subscribed. And as always, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I will catch you on the flip side. And I promise I will stop doing this with my head at some point. Okay? Okay. Peace out, peeps. No, Kurt could not date Reagan. Even Kurt has standards. Oh, wow, that came out really harsh. She is not to anybody's standard. Kurt, I promise that didn't come out how I meant to say it, okay? I promise. Anyway, peace.
This shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.